Yeah, so it's very interesting to see the big numbers. So like the slide with the 7 billion, a lot. So it just shows that we still have a few people out there that we haven't reached. But yeah, so if you look at Rovio and what we've been doing and been up to for the last 4 years, we now have more than 2 billion copies of Angry Birds out there. And I always kind of like refer to that as a good start. And 2 billion, of course, is much more than anybody could kind of like dream of. I thought I was like super ambitious when I said, you know, back in 2010 that, okay, we're going to have 100 million downloads for Angry Birds. Everybody at Rovio thought I was crazy. And of course, outside of Rovio, even more so. Because 100 million, I mean, that was like totally unheard of. We're told that, hey, you know, like only Tetris has done that and it took them like 20 years. And we also talked to the guys, you know, like distributing Tetris and all of that, and they kind of like told us that like, hey, you guys are like insane, can't be done. And even if you kind of like if you go and buy, you know, the Guinness Book of World Records, okay, the latest ones they've like fixed it, but even in like 2 years ago, they were still, you know, saying that okay, biggest game ever, Tetris, 100 million copies, and. Now when you look back, if somebody will tell you that, you know, like we're going to have 100 million downloads for a game, oh yeah, it's you know, slightly ambitious, but you know, it's kind of like reasonable, you can do that. So I think that it's very, very important to keep in mind that 4 years ago, if you said 100 million, you know, people thought you were insane. Today when you say 100 million, you know, like no big deal. And yeah, as I said, we have now 2 billion. Over 2 billion copies of Angry Birds out there. And I think that the download numbers, of course, are kind of like no big deal because that doesn't really tell you anything about the engagement and all of that. But if you look at, you know, how many people play Angry Birds, you know, every day, every month, I mean, we still have way over 200 million people that play Angry Birds every month. So it's kind of like the size of the Twitter audience, you know, all of Twitter. So it's pretty big if you kind of like then start comparing games to some of those supposedly like big social networks. But of course, I mean, we're still much more than Facebook, so we need to kind of like work on that. But I think that one thing that is really happening, and if you look at our industry, okay, so just heard that Candy Crush has 500 million installs, so, you know, good start. But I think that really moving towards brands becoming super, super important. Because as we all know, it's very crowded out there. You know, for every Angry Birds, there are many. There are hundreds of thousands not so Angry Birds, not so successful games. And I totally agree with Tommy there that, I mean, it's again, if you're serious about making games, you have to be very, very serious about marketing, very serious about branding. And if you look at what we've been doing at Rovio, so of course we started as a games company. We started as a mobile games company 10 years ago. We actually made 51 games before Angry Birds, so we know very, very well how tough it is to create a hit game. And I would argue that it hasn't gotten any easier. I mean, it's gotten even more crowded. And like any other kind of like market out there, you know, it's not easy to stand out of the crowd. And I think this is also something that if you look at, you know, take more mature markets, take, for example, you know, soft drinks. You know, if I would, you know, like stand up here and, okay, I just like had this great idea, I'm going to start a soft drink company, and I'm going to take on Coke. You know, it's like, good luck with that. And I think that there's nobody kind of like in their right mind, you know, would think, okay, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to build a brand like Coke and I'm going to kind of like take them down. And I think that it's very interesting that we have people in games who think, that, okay, yeah, we're, you know, like I'm going to make this game and I'm going to, you know, go out there and build the biggest brand on the planet. The interesting thing is that in games and with digital distribution, you can do that. With Angry Birds, we actually built the fastest growing brand ever. So we kind of like did some studies. We asked people in the U.S. It turns out that 9 out of 10 people in the U.S. know the brand of Angry Birds. 93% of the population of China knows the brand. And just a very nice experience. Last year I was at the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, and I was staying at the same hotel. I guess Samsung or somebody had booked all their executives into that hotel. So me and a bunch of Korean people, and then one of the days, in the morning, I was walking across the lobby, and then there's this maybe 60-some years old Korean gentleman walks towards me, and okay, I'm always wearing my red hoodie, so again, about the brand. So then this guy doesn't speak much English, so when he comes closer, his big smile on his face, and what does he do? He goes like this. So playing Angry Birds in the air. So it's super exciting to see that, yeah, we're building a brand, but we're creating language. So people immediately recognize that, what is the guy doing? Yeah, he's playing Angry Birds. So I thought that was pretty cool. And another example of then power of the brand. One of my friends actually works at Samsung, his day job. Then he has a startup making some solar power solutions for Africa. And he was on a trip to Africa and to Mozambique, and they went to a little village deep in the countryside. And then there's a tiny little village store. And what does he see on the wall of that store? Huge ad for Coke. Another great red brand. And right next to that Coke ad that I'm sure Coke paid for, one of our fans had painted a huge red bird. So deep in Africa, in this little village, Coke and Angry Birds. So what saying here is that brand will become more and more important. Right now, if you look at what is happening with user acquisition costs and all of that, skyrocketing. It's becoming very, very tough out there. You just saw the list of the few companies that can actually afford to do that, and it's getting smaller and smaller. So what we are doing is that we are building Angry Birds not for 100 days, but for 100 years. So we're off to a good start, but it's only the beginning. So 2 billion downloads, will become a few billion more, but it's really all about establishing the brand there. Mario, that Chris was mentioning, of course, a great role model for anybody in games. Nintendo has been building Mario games for almost 30 years now. Or then if you look at some other exciting companies and characters, again out of Japan, our good friend Hello Kitty, 40 years this year. 40 years. And if you look at some other well-known characters, Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse was launched through a black and white cartoon in 1928. And guess what? That company now is building theme parks. Who would have believed? On all continents. And if you look at Rovio, 2009, 11th of December to be exact, we launched our Angry Birds brand, our Angry Birds characters, through a little game on the iPhone. Now, 45% of our business, latest numbers we announced, physical products, consumer products, toys, soft drinks. We're actually giving Coke a good run for their money in a lot of markets, so it can be done in soft drinks. We have tens of thousands of physical consumer products out there, all continents. We have Angry Birds activity parks on all continents. We actually have 2 of our Angry Birds activity parks in the US, one in Houston and one in Florida, on the NASA premises. So we built parks together with NASA. We launched a game in space. Again, things that sound crazy at first, but it can be done. Last summer we took over the Red Square in Moscow. I was told that it can't be done. It's like a holy place. We took over the whole Red Square, we branded it Angry Birds, we threw a party for 40,000 people. Then some of my Russian friends came there, and then they told me that, now Peter, now we believe that you guys can do anything. And okay, we didn't stop there. We also threw a party for 6,000 students at the Kremlin, like Putin's house. So it's a little bit like, throwing a picnic at the White House with Obama. So I think that what I'm saying here is that what started as a little game with a few downloads has grown into a major brand, major franchise. We're actually now in the top 10 of all licensed brands. Of course, our friends at Disney are still way ahead of us, but our trajectory looks a little bit better. So all about brand, we're off to a good start, but I think that it's again, you can really do anything. There's no reason why you can't build a massive brand starting with a little game. Just like you could do that in 1928 with a black and white cartoon about a little mouse. So again, it's a good start, but we're only getting started. Thanks.
Thank you.